Good afternoon and welcome to the September 2013 meeting of the Pitt County Board of Social Services. I'd like to take a moment to have silent prayer or silent meditation. Okay. All right. Again, one of the things that we're encouraging the citizens of Pitt County to do is to take advantage of speaking directly to us, and that will be in the public comment section. Do we have any public comments at this time? We have none? Okay. Again, we really would like all the citizens to take advantage of that because it gives us time and to hear directly from you. I'd like to get a motion or discussion on adopting or revising today's agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented, Mr. Chairman.
I second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Also like to get a motion regarding the minutes.
That we accept the minutes as printed and distributed. There'll be any corrections.
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Again, I'd like to thank Susan for the thoroughness, and as well as Mr. Perry for the thoroughness of the minutes, because we do go over them and they are interesting reading, to say the least. Okay. Now we're going to move on to matters which require board action, and let's see now. First off, we have something new and a new person here. A new person, but an old person. Swearing in of Melanie Bryant. And that will be done by Sarah Beth.
Hi, how are you doing? All right, place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and you'll just say I do at the appropriate time. Do you, Melanie Bryant, solemnly swear that you will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States?
I do.
And do you, Melanie Bryant, do solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are and may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability?
I do.
And finally, do you, Melanie Bryant, do solemnly swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office as a member of the Pitt County Board of Social Services according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God?
I do.
Let me congratulate you.
Thank you.
I guess that calls for a round of applause. Okay. Next, we're going to go to the budget amendments, and that'll be by...
I'll be doing the budget
You'll be
amendments
doing the
today.
I was noticing that PJ wasn't here, or she was traveling incognito.
Okay, she has a medical appointment today, so she was not able to make the meeting. We have quite a few budget amendments. Some are from prior year funds, contribution and donation of $37,839. Special child adoption funds, $8,808. And on the adult daycare, we need to delete prior year funds. Those are funds for this year. Adoption promotion, $18,000. And the budget amendments on parent partner, that should be Casey Family Programs. That's a new name, but it's the same purpose. So under both of those be Casey Family Programs, $20,750 and $435. No, and all of these are no county funds attached.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the budget's amendment that has been presented.
I second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you very much. I'm always amazed about a lot of this is donated money. Some of this is
Yes, some
donated
of it.
money.
Yes.
And really shows that we do care about our citizens. And I want to give a special thank you to all those that have donated to these groups, because they do need extra money. And that also shows that you're thinking about these people that may need help, and that's always appreciated. Next, we're going to go to reports to the board, and that will be Janice Gallagher.
Do you want me to speak from here or go to the podium?
Let's see, we'll talk to Mr. Cameraman.
Is this okay? The podium?
What would you like, Mr. Cameraman? Podium?
Good afternoon. I am Janice Gallagher, the Pitt County Attorney. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I just wanted to speak to you briefly about three topics. Find it helpful at times, especially when there are new board members, welcome to Melanie Bryan, to just do a refresher, really on three things that I want to touch on today. One, on DSS Board duties and responsibilities, very briefly on open meetings, and also on public records. I've just found it very beneficial to do this periodically as a refresher. If at any time the board wants me to come back, I'm happy to do that in the future. Let me pass out for you at this point a notebook that each of you may have as a resource guide. Actually, that one, yeah, here. No, this is an extra for, let me give this one to the manager. This is a resource manual that I hope you will each find helpful. It looks like this. It's Resource Manual for North Carolina County Boards of Social Services. Everything I say is also contained in this manual. It's something I do hope that you will take the time to read and use as a resource guide. It contains the laws, it contains relevant forms. It is written by DSS board members for DSS board members. And is a tool that I hope you'll find helpful, and if you have questions about, I'm happy to answer at some point in the future, or any of your staff or the DSS management team, I'm sure, could follow up with you on that. Also want to introduce, while I'm here, Lisa Overton. She is the Assistant County Attorney, and we serve the Board of Commissioners and all of the county departments, and to the extent there are any educational opportunities we could provide for you, or any legal resources that you may need, feel free to call on either one of us at any time. So with that, let's jump into kind of just the who, what, when, where, and why of DSS boards. Some of this you may know already. For our more seasoned folks, forgive the repetition. But for newer folks, this may be helpful just to know. Let's start with the who. You are a 5-member board. 2 are appointed by the Social Services Commission, 2 are appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, and 1 is appointed by the other 4. You serve 3-year terms at a 2-term total maximum. Your attendance is important and appreciated. That's the who of it. Within the who, Chapter 108A of the North Carolina General Statutes requires that every July you select a chairperson. You are not required as a board to have a vice chair, but you may have a vice chair if you choose to have a vice chair. Your DSS director or his designee will serve as the secretary to the board. Let's talk about when. The law requires that you meet at least 1 time per month, but each month there ought to be a meeting. You can meet more than that if your business so requires, but you must meet, like the Board of County Commissioners, at least 1 time per month. Where? You're going to meet wherever your meeting notice designates that you'll be meeting. And when we talk about the when and the where, that's kind of where I want to touch on the open meetings laws. You can have 3 types of meetings. You can have a regular meeting, a special meeting, or an emergency meeting. Your regular meeting is set pursuant to your board schedule that's on file with the clerk to the Board of County Commissioners, and it lists all of your regular meeting dates and locations. If there's a change to any of those meeting dates or locations, you have to provide 7 days notice under the law to change that, and then you could meet at your newly designated date or location. Special meetings are for special issues that come up outside of your regular meetings or can't wait until your next meeting. Those meetings, if you have to hold one, require notice posted on the door of your usual meeting place or the principal bulletin board in your building, and also requires notice to the press, or what they also call sometimes a sunshine list, which is a list of individuals who've asked to be notified about your board meetings if there's anybody on that list. But that requires 48 hours notice. Special meetings can be called for any purpose that you designate, and your content or discussion at those meetings ought to relate just to that special purpose. There may on rare occasions be opportunities to need an emergency meeting. That's one where you can provide notice within 24 hours of that meeting, and what you need to do is notify the press that you're having that meeting and that sunshine list. So that's what open meetings laws require. It requires you tell the when and the where of your meetings, and there are certain requirements about those notice that you can consult at the time you schedule those meetings, and those need to be followed by the letter of the law. Once you get into a meeting, everything we do is open to the public. I know typically all of your meetings are televised live. When we're in a different room like today, it may be televised and replayed, but all of your meetings are open unless you call a closed session. Closed sessions can take place for 6 particular reasons, and only 6 particular reasons that are set forth in the general statutes, and they're listed in your notebook as well. Generally speaking, it's for confidential information, prevention of disclosure of an award or an honorary degree, to consult with an attorney, to negotiate contractual terms, to discuss personnel, to discuss matters relating to a criminal investigation. Those are generally the reasons why you can go into closed session. And as you do on a regular basis, I don't know if you may wonder at some point, why does Susan recite this litany of language? It's required that before you go into a closed session that she recite the statutory language that takes you into the closed session. When you're in closed session, you can talk about only what you've gone into closed session for, and then you come out of closed session, and if there's anything to be reported out, you do that in open session. Let's talk about how you meet. So I think we've gotten the who, the when, the where, the how. Your meetings are in person, and they're noticed that way. One area that I think is sometimes important to highlight is that in our technological world, we can often be influenced by the convenience of email. Experts at the School of Government have found, or have an opinion, that when you communicate by email to a majority of the board or a quorum of the board and hit a reply all, you're having a meeting. And so if you're going to have an electronic meeting, that also has to be noticed. Be mindful of your email communications. There have been 2 cases that have challenged, actually 3 that I'm aware of. 2 cases have said, yes, it's an electronic meeting and would require notice. 1 has said no. So it's still somewhat of a gray area, but I'd like all of you to follow the notion that we do our business in your meetings and that we limit our email communication only as necessary. And avoid emails that would go to an entire board or a reply all if it's being initiated by a board member. Now that doesn't mean the director or Susan can't send out a package to the full board, but you would not then hit reply all and make some comments or invite discussion about an item on that agenda. Those things have to take place in your meeting. Another hot issue lately, other than meetings by email, has been meeting by telephone or teleconference. So I'm pleased that you're all here and that you're all here in person. Some boards have had challenges with regard to people wanting to phone in. And unless you have a policy within your board's local procedures that allow for that or set the parameters for that, I'd advise that you avoid meetings by teleconference as much as you avoid meetings by email. But those are the 2 areas in the law that we're seeing some attention and some litigation. And so I just bring those to your attention. And then let's finally just talk about the what. And this is really the meat of what you do and why you're here. And the general statutes tell you exactly what your responsibilities are, and they're set forth in your materials as well. Foremost, the board is, and I'll pull that page so that I don't, here it is. Chapter 108A, Article 1, Section 9 sets forth your responsibilities, and the statute contains 5 of those responsibilities. You select the County Director of Social Services according to the merit system rules of the State Personnel Commission, which means you have to be familiar with the State Personnel Code, and you have the authority to hire the director. Second is to advise the county authorities or municipal authorities in developing policies and plans to improve the social conditions of the community. That's what we're here. That's what this is all about. Third is to consult with your Director of Social Services about problems relating to his office or to assist him in planning budgets for the County Department of Social Services. Fourth is to transmit and present budgets of the County Department of Social Services to the County Board of Commissioners. And fifth is to perform any other such duties that the General Assembly tells you you need to perform. And so that's kind of your catch-all. Additionally, social services boards, in carrying out these duties, the state tells us that they supervise the county social services director and provide oversight over the county department. Evaluate your director's job performance, preferably annually. Establish the director's salary with the approval of the County Board of Commissioners and pursuant to the state pay scale. And then review the department's fiscal and personnel needs to develop a strategy for meeting those needs. There are some things that you don't have authority over as a board. You don't hire or fire social services employees. That is exclusively within the authority of the director. You do not approve or disapprove the final budget. That's within the Board of County Commissioners. And you do not approve or disapprove on personnel matters. Those are for employees. Those are recommendations to the director. So with that in mind, you have a very meaningful job before you that you have been carrying out for many years, and for some will begin to carry out. You have many resources available to you. You have a management team and folks who are with you at every meeting to help guide you. To the extent you need assistance from the county legal department on any legal issues that may arise, please feel free to call on me. As I've said before, Lisa and I serve the Board of County Commissioners, but are here as a resource to you as you may need us. Are there any questions? I know I spoke very briefly about the who, what, when, where, and why of DSS boards. Talked to you a little bit about open meetings, a little bit about your responsibilities, and let me touch too briefly on public records. And that is that everything we do in county government is for the people and belongs to the people. So that unless it's protected by a confidential statute, and departments of social services have many statutes that make certain programs confidential, everything that we do belongs to the people. And so hence our meetings are open, the public is invited to participate at the appropriate time during your public comment period as you started out your meeting. And those records that the public may wish to look at, unless they are protected by a particular statute, belong to the people. Any questions? A lot of information in a short period of time. Yes?
Can you expound upon the policy rule of the board versus maybe day-to-day administrative?
Absolutely. You select as a board your director, and your director hires his team or her team to carry out the goals and policies and objectives that you as a board set. One of the greatest keys to success in a board and DSS department relationship is going to be clear communication and setting forth those identifiable goals and objectives so that the director and his team know what you expect. And then, once you set those out, typically contained in a work plan, an annual work plan, then you have a basis from which to evaluate, based on the data, whether or not those objectives have been met. So clear communication, and you set the policy. It's not the role of the board to get into the day-to-day operations of programs. It is the role of the board to set the overall policies and objectives in consultation with the director, to set them forth in a work plan, and to evaluate through objective data whether or not those objectives have been met. And if you are pleased that they're met, that's reflected in the director's performance evaluation. And if you're not, you communicate to the director how you want to see those addressed in the future. And then you use that as your guide. So as the board, you're really, the policy arm of this Department of Social Services in consultation with the experts who are on your staff. We recognize that you are a group of appointed lay folks who have volunteered your time and energy to provide this service. And so rely on the staff of the agency. They are the ones who've been specifically trained and are the experts in these programs. Working together, you'll set those goals and objectives. You'll measure those goals and objectives each year. And the other thing that you'll see in this manual as well is in addition to setting those goals and objectives and your ultimate responsibility to review the performance of the director, you ought also on an annual basis be reviewing the performance of the board itself to be sure your communications are clear, to be sure your objectives are clear to your director, and to be sure you're analyzing and assessing those based on the data that's provided to you, to be sure you're reaching them in a reasonable period of time and the way this board has set the policy for our community. Yes.
One of the things I was thinking about as we as a board review what we've done, and we might do a retreat. I'm assuming that would be open and minutes would be kept of the retreat.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. There will be occasions where you may come inadvertently in contact with a majority of your board at a social event where there is no discussion about Department of Social Services work at all. That's not a meeting, and none of these laws will kick in. But if for any reason you schedule a retreat or a meeting or a luncheon to discuss DSS business, then that's a meeting that'll need to be properly noticed, minutes kept. Those minutes, unless they're closed session minutes, are the property of the people, so that we assure transparency in what we do, and so that the folks who are receiving our services and for the folks who are observing the activities of this board can know exactly what's going on.
Do we have here in this booklet the objectives of your director, vice chairman, and supervisors and so forth?
Yes, you will
They
find.
need to hear.
They are. You'll find a full page on the duties and responsibilities of the board, the duties and responsibilities of the chair, the duties and responsibilities of the director.
All right. What about the supervisors of social services and the?
They are not in here because those expectations are set by your director. So you can communicate with your director to say, we expect you to do these things and have these deliverables. And then George will go ahead and set plans for each of his supervisors and his team under him to assist him in accomplishing those directives.
So George, you have the objectives of your supervisors, your vice chairman, and so forth.
We work under the state, which we're state supervised and county administered. A lot of the programs that we operate already have their objectives in place, and we're going to talk about one of those today, child support. So we have those objectives in place, and we have supervisors in place that are responsible for administering those programs with the objectives outlined.
Yeah. You know, I've asked you, like your assistant
Yes.
director, I wanted to know what was her duty and responsibility. And I think and of course the
Yeah.
supervisors
Yeah.
and so forth. And they need a clear objective to know what we are expecting of them.
I have a question. At what point do we see the policy?
I'm sorry, which policy?
The policy of the relating to the activities of the department.
When you develop them in conjunction, the policies for the Board of Social Services could take the form of a work plan, for example. And that would draw in, like George has said, the program expectations that are set out by law or set out by the state. And you'll hear some of those program objectives, I understand, from child support. And then you put those objectives into a work plan. And then you have reports back to you that tell you how you're meeting those objectives. And then that's how you determine your performance. So when you see the policies, the answer is when you create them. You help shape those policies. You help, as a board, create those policies in conjunction with the director. And you'll need to rely on your director and his staff because he's the one who has the technical knowledge about what these programs require. He knows what those deadlines are, what the program requirements look like, what the expectations of the state are, because he needs to meet those in order to assure his outside funding as well. And so in conversation with your director, you'll develop a work plan. For all county departments and employees, we have PEP plans. And in Pitt County, that's a Partners for Effective Performance plan. And it sets out at the beginning of each fiscal year your goals for the year, your goals and your objectives. And similarly, you would have them for the agency so that you could measure and see what it is you're accomplishing, highlight your successes, and know where to focus on your challenges. And then move through that way. And then you oversee that progress as the board.
All right, on this NC Pass, you have objectives.
Right,
Your objectives, supervisors, workers,
correct.
all of you. And everybody understands what they are, when they're going to be completed. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
Communication is the key, and
Well,
I'm
I know
hearing
that.
you
That's
say that.
what,
I think effective communication between the board and the director is essential. Effective communication between the director and his supports are absolutely essential. That communication drives the goals, and the data determines your results.
See, that's what I don't quite understand. Your objectives for these workers, now a lot of them have to work on Saturday. Was that put in there? Do they have a choice between working on Saturdays or say 2 hours?
That
In
was-
each one. That's one of my complaints. I even got it today.
Well, we
Why
can
couldn't they
talk
have to
about
hire
that. We're gonna do
babysitters?
that under the director's report, but under NC Fast, it was mandatory that they work on Saturday. It was not an option.
They didn't have a choice that they could work then in the afternoon to make up this.
No, it was mandatory that they work on Saturday.
Who says
I
it?
made that a choice.
You made it yourself then. Management made it. That's what I
I
was
made
told.
the choice.
Yeah, and this particular individual was very much concerned because she was having to find daycare stuff, and they said telephones. I said, well, the telephone's not a problem. You call up here after 5 o'clock, they'll tell you right off the bat you're not talking about it. So if they were working after 5, the telephone wouldn't be a problem for them because you didn't have them on. They could work.
Eugene, I think we can return to that when we get
Okay,
to the
well, I
other
want
part
to
of
make
the
sure
meeting.
that we bring these
Yeah,
things out.
that'll be something that we can bring up a little bit later on when George goes into his report. This
Okay.
is more in terms of our duties as a board and our responsibilities.
Yeah, and so that kind of concludes my refresher on your duties, responsibilities, open meetings, and public records. I'm available as a resource anytime you may need. And I wish you all well as you carry out some very important business for our community here in Pitt County.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. That's always very helpful, and most of the board members have gone to a training session when we began, but it's always important to get a review as lots of things are changing now.
And have it in writing.
And have it in writing, certainly. Okay. Next, we're going to go to child support goals and objectives, and that's going to be by Michelle McCorkle.
Good afternoon. I come before you to share with you the child support services goals for 2013 through 2014 fiscal year. In addition to that, we'll give you some comparative information as far as what we did at the end of the fiscal year for 2013 and compare with that also the state's performance. The goals and objectives for the child support program include paternity establishment, percentage of cases under order, collection of current support, collection of child support arrears, data reliability, and self-assessment. The first chart that you see before you is our self-assessment goals. The goals are set by the federal government, and so these numbers are the same for all the states throughout the U.S. What you have before you is a chart that explains what, or that categorizes the self-assessment goals. It gives you what the actual goal was for the last fiscal year, as well as what it is for the upcoming fiscal year. The goal, this particular goal remains the same from year to year. Case closure, the goal was 90%. Pitt County finished at the end of June 2013 at 99.73%. The state had a rating of 99.07%. And the to be considered passing in the category, it is a 90% rate. For the enforcement self-assessment, goal is 75%. Pitt County at the end of June 2013 was at 83.24%, and the state had a rating of 79.64%. In the category of establishment, the goal is 75%. Pitt County had a rating of 66.82%. The state had a rating of 64.5%. For the 12-month expedite processing category, the goal is 90%. Pitt County had a 91.21% rating, and the state had 95.57%. For 6-month expediting process, the goal is 75%. Pitt County had a rating of 83.25%. The state had a rating of 89.35%. For interstate, the goal is 75%. Pitt County had a rating of 79.9%. The state had a rating of 80.16%. For our review and adjustment category, the goal is 75%. Pitt County had a rating of 97.65%, and the state had a rating of 97.36%. And again, I restate that the self-assessment goals are assigned by the federal government, and they are the same from year to year. The next chart you have before you is our child support services. These are the incentive goals. The incentive goal categories are the same for each state across the U.S. They are assigned by the federal government. The actual percentage goal is assigned by the state for the counties. The incentive goal of paternity, at the end of the fiscal year, our goal was 104%. Pitt County obtained 101.4%. The state's average was 97.52%. For the upcoming fiscal year, Pitt County has been assigned a goal of 100%. For the category of cases under order, that is, of our total number of cases, how many cases do we actually have under order? The goal was 88.86%. At the end of this past fiscal year, we had 88.36% of the cases under order. The state average was 84.40%. Our goal for the upcoming fiscal year is 88.36%. The federal incentive goal of the collection rate, our goal was 66.16%. We obtained 65.14%. The state average was 65.93%. And our goal for the upcoming fiscal year is 65.64%. Payment towards arrears, incentive goal was 69%. We obtained 68.70%. The state average was 64.92%, and our goal for the upcoming fiscal year is 68.70%. Our total collections, our goal for the fiscal year was $14,200,658. We actually collected $14,056,062. This was our highest collections in history for Pitt County, and our assigned goal for the upcoming fiscal year would be to maintain and collect what we collected the previous fiscal year. Our data reliability category, this was a newly assigned category that the state assessed us on this past fiscal year. They assigned it a goal of 95%. Pitt County attained 93.77%. There was no data available as far as a comparative for the state, but it maintains that our upcoming goal will be 95% as well for the upcoming fiscal year. The child support unit works very hard in conjunction with the legal staff that we have assigned to us and the 40 deputies that we have contracted with us. In addition to that, the clerk's office works closely with us in an effort to get the paperwork that we submit to them and have that back to us timely to minimize turnaround time for processing of our paperwork. And in addition to that, by way of communication with our legal staff, the judicial system continues to be aware of and conscientious about our need for court time in order to improve our efficiency as well. And I will attempt to answer any questions that you all might have at this time as it relates to our goals, either for the previous fiscal year or for the upcoming fiscal year.
Okay. Scott, do you have a question?
Yes, on the fraternity where it shows for the PIT goal for 12-13, 104%, and the national is 101.4. How do you exceed 100%? How does that calculate?
What they do is because they don't have any way of knowing actually or projecting unborn births for an upcoming year, they use the actual numbers from the previous year to determine an average to project or assign for the upcoming year.
So that somehow then exceeds the 100%.
Right.
Mary? you have a question?
I've asked for statistics to be given in actual numbers, and all I see are percentages here. So how many cases in child support do we have in Pitt County? And that way we can determine what kind of percentages that exist and do some double checking as on the public's behalf. And I don't know why I continue getting percentages and don't get the actual numbers. I have no idea as to how many child support cases we have in Pitt County. And maybe we would know whether or not we are getting more than 100% of those cases. What are the policies as it relates to child support that relating to this? If we're going to review policies, we don't have a policy that is being carried out that we know that this department is functioning as it relates
If you
to
look
policies.
at the program of child support, if you look at the goals, the incentive goals, those are the things that the state have said that our child support agency need to be focusing on. Establishment of paternity, enforcement of court orders, increasing our child support collection. So the state has said these are the goals, these are the things that we need to be operating under. And then as Michelle as the supervisor and then as the workers, those are the things that they work on to make sure that we'll meet the requirements that the state has set forward in our child support program.
But a policy, I'm thinking, is a manner in which you do this or do these things. Am I not correct?
Right.
So I'm asking what are the policies as it relates to child support? You just don't up and do, you create a policy. Does the staff operate that they can pick up the phone and call a client in the hospital, or pick up the phone and call a client on their job? Or there should be some policy that we can look at that policy is adhered to.
When
Or am I asking?
When someone gives a cell phone number, we do not know where that person is calling from. So if I have a cell phone number, I have no idea whether or not that person is in the hospital. I am calling that cell phone number.
So a policy can dictate all of the numbers that you have, whether it's a cell phone, a home phone, or a work phone.
And those are the numbers that the absent parent and the mother will give for us to contact them, will be their numbers.
So your policy doesn't dictate that you get all of those
Yes,
communicated?
the policies dictate that we have a way of contacting you. We have your address, that we can send out information, that we can mail it to you. We have a telephone number that we can reach you. You give your telephone numbers. If you call in and ask us to return your call, then that's the number that you give us. That's the number that we're going to call back on.
I think one of the things that Mary's talking about is that part of what she's saying is that there's a series of written policies
We have manuals that we use.
that the workers have that say that, you know, these are our policies, this is how you contact the client, et cetera, et cetera. And that sounds like what you're interested in seeing.
I mean, if, as a board member,
Would we be able to get those? Because
Our policy is based upon the general statutes, the general.
but there's a
statutes,
set of
110.
written
It's-
policies that you have, right? I mean,
There-
in terms of how to contact a person, things of that nature. No?
I'll just piggyback on what
Mhm.
you said, especially back to what you said.
Mhm.
I mean, these are like federal, like all programs. We
Yeah.
have federal outcome measures and state outcome measures that we have to address, and those are the outcomes we need to get.
Mhm. And then I think they-
utilizing their dollars.
Right.
But we also have local program design. How do we want our program to operate? How are we going to interact with our customers? Those kinds of things. That's not dictated in federal policy. That's things we do locally.
Well,
that
you know,
operate as an
mhm.
agency and an organization, and those
Yeah.
and
Well,
operate.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
the important point about the statistics too is talking about performance plans. Looking at the data, if there was an area that significantly was missed, you would want for that year possibly to come up with an objective, maybe a program improvement objective to improve that area once you assess at the end of the year why you may be missing the mark on that outcome. So it's not just a matter of, you know, regurgitating what the program guidelines are, but it goes deeper than that when we want to do program improvement in an area or accomplish something in an area.
I'm trying to understand that this Department of Social Services don't know how many cases they have in child support?
We do.
As of June,
They don't know
As
the
of
various
2013,
phone
we had a
numbers
total
as
number
to
of
how to
cases of
reach people?
8,491
I thought I was
cases.
asking a policy question, or am I the only one who don't understand what a policy
Ms.
is?
Michelle McCullough.
As of June 2013, we had a total of 8,491 cases. Of those cases, 7,503 of them were under order.
Well, I'm raising the question again. I thought in the past I did ask for actual numbers of cases as a board member, that we do not just see percentages, that we see actual numbers, and we are here to do a check and balance system, and we don't have any totals on this report.
One of the things that
I mean, am I the only one that's lost in this, or did I not ask?
Yeah, I see
Or
your
was I
point.
not
Part of
entitled
this
to ask?
is the way the government wants you to report back.
Exactly.
So that's that part. What Mary is saying and has been pushing is that with in those same cells to have actual numbers.
What she wants and what I want too, 104%. 104% of what?
Thank you.
Yeah. That's
That's
what I'm
exactly
saying,
what
to
it
put
boils down
actual numbers in those cells. And what would be easy to do is to take this same report and substitute numbers where you have percent.
I think on our quarterly reports that you see is where we put the numbers. She's just sharing with you what
okay.
this year's mandates are from the federal
The
government. but-
request was that
You'll
I
see those
made,
numbers.
whenever we get a report, to include the actual numbers, so that we can make a good assessment on the public behalf as to what we're seeing. And that's all it was, a request, said, I look, out of this number of cases, we've got this much done. That's all I asked.
Ms. Perkins, I will make sure that when we do our next report that we put a block in there to show the numbers that we comparing against. So you will have the percentages as well as the numbers. We can do that. But we, on this report, this is what the state was looking at, this what we shared with you. But we would go a step further and put our numbers in there so you would know what we have number-wise and how we came up with the percentage.
And you don't have a policy related?
Yeah, we have a manual that tells us how to do child support. So we have a policy manual that tells us how to run the program.
But it gives you the general parameters. It doesn't say you call this guy before 9 o'clock or you
No.
call him only at work. I think Mary's looking for more specifics than exist in your policy guidelines.
No, we don't have that.
That would be a local decision.
I just heard that,
Yeah.
I don't want to belabor this, but I just heard this morning that this board is to set policy. And this board is to review policy. And this board is sort of a checkpoint for government, client, and the public at large. And I'm not seeing enough information that I don't have a social service background. I have general knowledge about social service. So to be a good board member, I just want a little bit more detail as to what it is I'm going to be looking at, what it is that I'm going to compare it to, and how I'm going to make a good assessment or evaluation as to on the public's behalf and on a good taxpayer. That's
Okay.
all I want to do.
Okay.
Dr.
So-
Hamilton, can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Mm-hmm.
I know with the Board of Commissioners, they adopt ordinances, set broad-ranging policies. The adoption of the budget is really a policy document. But also within the organization, we have a policy and procedures manual that is more of a very thick manual. There are policies and procedures that I, as the manager, put forth for the organization to follow. Those are not adopted or necessarily seen directly by the Board of Commissioners. Does Mr. Perry, George, do you have policy and procedures that are more internal agency driven that don't necessarily come all up to the DSS
Yes,
board?
we have a manual on the website, that our administrative manual that covers different things. But we don't get down into whether or not you can call somebody between the hours of 8 to 5.
I guess I'm just trying to
Yeah.
differentiate. There probably
Yeah.
are policies that
Yeah.
come before the
Yeah.
DSS
Mhm.
board. There are probably internal policies
Yeah.
of how you operate
Yeah.
that don't.
And I think that's what Mary is talking about, some of those internal things so that when an issue comes up that we could see
Okay.
those. That's what you're saying, I think. Michelle, one of the things
But
that, oh, go ahead.
maybe what I'm hearing is policy, is what you said this morning. How do you make an assessment? I mean, you talk, we should be looking at policy.
Well, and I think that's two-part. I think, for example, in this type of report, the goals are set forth and the results are set forth. So if, for example, you see one that has a collection rate of 66.16 is the goal, and in 2013 it was just shy at 65.14, and you'd like to see that exceed, then I think it's entirely appropriate to say what governed, what caused that output result. Let me see the policy relating to that so that we can review it and determine whether or not we as a board might want to offer suggestions for the director to implement to maybe get a higher percentage rate next year for improvement. That doesn't mean that this board would draft the nuts and bolts,
Right.
how the work is done from 8 to 5.
Correct.
But that you could educate yourself on the
Yes.
current practices so that you could be more informed in setting other objectives if you found an area in this report that needed more attention or attention at a higher level. So if that's what you're getting at, yeah, I think that's entirely appropriate, and there are voluminous manuals that I'm aware of for each program that determine what the requirements and the expectations for each worker are, and to the extent portions of those are relevant to this board setting objectives for the board. You know, if one was terribly low, you might want to set an objective for your director to bring that up next year.
Well, but see, I don't have anything to make that assessment.
Right. And I hear that's what you're asking.
That's
but,
what I'm
But that's
asking.
what I mean by policies. Not that it's this board's responsibility to set the work day for each employee.
That's not
That's
what
the
I'm
director's
talking about.
responsibility. But that if you need additional information, certainly George will provide.
Shel, one of the things that, as you've been coming up, is the different ways that you have been improving collection rates, and some of the things that you were doing. And I usually ask you, what has been the most successful so far, and what are you planning to do in the future?
This past fiscal year, our launch in conjunction with our Sheriff's Department was an extension of our previous Operation Support Your Child, and it was entitled Operation Take Charge, and that was a project that was ongoing between middle of May on to the middle of June, and it is strategically designed to be at that standpoint to help in an effort to push us over what goals we may be, or to help us meet our goals that we may be deficient in at the end of the fiscal year, or push us over. And in conjunction with that, to begin as a jump start for the upcoming fiscal year. So in doing that, our particular focus on this particular project was to encourage individuals to come into the office and either enter into agreements for child support orders or to begin to pay their support. In doing this project, we worked very closely with, again, I say the 4D deputies. We had the media came out and supported us. We had interviews with the Daily Reflector, in addition to the various TV stations, and a signage that was at the intersection of Highway 11 out by Davenport Farm Road, signage there for individuals that we had, for whatever reason, been unable to locate, asking the public for assistance in attempting to retrieve those individuals as well. So throughout the year, we have various projects that we do, and they're all strategically designed at particular quarters of the year to focus on either the establishment goals, that is setting up child support orders, or to focus on our collection goals, that is the overall money that we collect. Generally, what we do for our establishment goals, we try to focus on those at the beginning of the fiscal year, with the goal being that we get the individuals under order, can encourage them to begin to pay, and that can be a good paying order throughout the fiscal year for the benefit of the children of Pitt County.
What I saw that as was an interesting way to do something. I almost saw it, and this may not be the right term, as an amnesty period, where you come in, you talk to us, you set something up, because sometimes I see that people overwhelmed with what they should do, they're not sure what to do, they're afraid to come in because they're afraid basically they're going to be incarcerated. And what you did is said, hey, look, this is a time where you can come in, talk to us, and this is what we're going to do and work something out. And that seemed to have worked fairly well, because it seemed like some non-custodial parents did want to do that, but they were kind of overwhelmed by the amount of money, what they had to do, getting a lawyer, and those kinds of things. So I kind of like that program myself.
And that aspect is correct, in that individuals that may have had outstanding orders during that time frame, we do enter into negotiations with them to recall those and enter into some sort of repayment plan with them to begin them being in compliance with their orders again.
Can you give your number that people can call if they have some issues and they need to talk with you or someone
Yes.
in your office?
The 252-902-1300. We do always encourage the individuals to contact us if they have any questions about their cases, if they have any new information to report, or if they are in some way having concerns about their orders. So if it's not something that we are able to do in the office to help them come into compliance, perhaps we can direct them to the right way, be it necessary for them to file motions of their own or speak with attorneys about filing motions on their behalf.
Would you've done this in the past partially in terms of outlining some of the procedures. In a future meeting, would you be able to come in and outline some of the things that go on in terms of maybe filing and petitions and child support?
How is it advertised?
Yeah, and how's it advertised? Those kinds of things, and present that to the board so that the citizens could see it, because I think sometimes there's still times when they're overwhelmed or they're not sure. And being that we're shown numerous times, people can go there and look at it, and then it'll also be archived.
Yes, and can I get clarity on how is it advertised? What do you mean when you say how is it advertised?
How do the parents know that they can come in during amnesty time?
How do the parents know about coming in during that amnesty time?
During that time, there is a press release that is made by the Pitt County Sheriff's Office, and there is media information all throughout that particular throughout the TV stations. Channel 9, Channel 7, WITN, WNCT were all very helpful, willing to come in and talk with us. In addition to the Daily Reflector, our public information channel even helped us on one of our operations. So generally what's done initially at the initial launch of it is a press release by the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. We really appreciate you coming up, and you're kind of becoming a frequent flyer here.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're going to go to the CHIP update, and that'll be by Brian Everett.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
This SIP update continues our discussion of the SIP program that we had at the last board meeting. The SIP program is a crisis intervention program, and it's federal funding we receive to help low-income families in heating or cooling related crises. So it assists with utility bills where there are those types of crises. And at the last meeting, we had been told by the state office that it would probably be October before we received any additional funds for this program. But not long after the last meeting, we did receive our allotment for the year, and we began assisting clients. Our total allotment for fiscal year 2013-2014 is $757,469. To date, with the heat that we've been having since July, we've been assisting. This is the period from July 1st through September 6th. We have used $191,428 of that allotment. We have assisted 823 households with cooling crises during that time. At the last meeting, we discussed the influx of applicants for this program, and the fact that there were a lot of people in the waiting room waiting to be seen, to be served by this program. And questions have arisen as to if we could not give out numbers beyond the number of people we could see for the day. And I want to share with you some things we've worked on to try to help with that. The answer is no, we cannot cut off and say we cannot see any more clients for the day. That is a federal civil rights requirement, client civil rights. The program policy says that when clients arrive to apply for a program, they are allowed to sign an application the same day they appear. It doesn't say that we cannot ask them to come back the next day in order to complete that. So sometimes it seems inconvenient for clients because they may have to come back, but there's federal regulation that is protecting their right as a client that application is recorded on the day they come and they are approved for that period of time. We have to have decisions made on these crises applications within 48 hours.
There was one thing that I wanted to interrupt you here, and I'm sorry about this. Is there a way that, and I talked about this, I thought about this earlier. Right now it closes at 5, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a way that we could stagger that a little bit, where we could be open a little bit later to cover some of those people? As an example, people come in around 5 or something, and we need to see them all.
Right.
Is there a way we could
Right.
stagger that,
Well,
even though we would close? So like, we'd have staff there until maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7.
5:30 is the
Yeah.
latest that the
What was
staff,
that?
right, 5:30 is the latest that staff would be. We sometimes have staff that are there until 5:30. So to answer your question, if somebody comes in right at 5, if the policy says if their lights are off, if they're already in a crisis situation, somebody stays and handles that situation. So if it's determined to be a priority, which the policy says you're in a crisis situation, your utility service is disconnected, then we do handle those. Somebody does handle those. But if it's not a crisis situation, an immediate crisis situation, say the cutoff date is 2 days from now, then it does allow us to have them, their date of application is protected, but they may have to come back the next day, but they get priority the next morning. They don't have to come in and then register and then be seen. We see those the next morning first before we see anybody else.
Okay.
The other thing that we're doing is, if we have so many that come in at a given time that we see that there are going to be people having to wait an extended period of time, and we certainly don't want anybody to have to come back the next day, we will do a group process where we'll take 15 to 20 people, give them general information in a group, have 2 social workers working with the group, and then still see them, check them out individually before they leave to let them know, we need this information back for your application. Please get it back in the next day, fax it, so we can make this decision within 48 hours. And those that already have their information will obtain it, and then that application will be worked up later that day or the next day to meet the 48-hour deadline. We have not, another social worker and I did a group one day to test it to see how it works, because we did have so many in the waiting room, and this is the best solution to the problem we found of having so many people and trying to keep people from having to come back the next day. So we will use that method to try to get people moving and not have to sit in the waiting room so long when we get crowds in there for this program. So that's something we've worked on.
Okay.
And we're doing it twice a day.
Yes, we would do a group, if the volume is heavy, we would do a morning group and do an afternoon group. Thank you for pointing
Okay.
that out. And I'd just like to say, the staff, we have 5 social workers and a supervisor who work with clients for the emergency assistance programs, and say they do a very good job. They're very diligent in trying to serve the clients in as short a period of time as possible, so we can keep clients moving and meet we are meeting the 48-hour deadline. And just one other thing about not honoring when somebody comes in with the signing the application. Mr. Perry in his director's report will talk about the Alexander versus Flaherty report later, and we have always prided ourselves on not discouraging anybody from applying for any program. And you'll see in that report, it deals with our Medicaid applications, our Medicaid program, that we received 100% on that section of the monitoring, because no incidents of discouragement were found with that monitoring. And we're very proud of that, and I thank the staff for that, because all of them working, we're able to receive that type of score, working together.
Because I think there was some concern about people not being seen, that various board members were getting in, and board members were seeing that there was a certain amount of frustration, issues with people being in line, waiting, having to come back.
Right.
And I was concerned about how that was being addressed, and would staggering staff be a way to ameliorate that situation?
I don't think staggering
Okay.
staff
All right.
will lessen it, because you still will have the same amount of people coming in the morning.
Mhm.
And if we have a staggered time, you will have one less person there during that time period to see them.
Mhm.
So what we're trying to do is, by doing group interviews, to take a big group at one time and seeing all those at one time, and still be able to have 5 people there at all.
And that's a good idea as well. That was just one of the ideas that I'd had. But I'm glad that you're looking at ways to address that as an issue, because that was certainly a concern that we as board members had, and that we were hearing about from numerous sources. Okay, you can go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's my report.
Okay. All right. Were there any other questions about what he was saying? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we're going to go to the tech support, and that'll be by Gwen Burns.
Good afternoon. This is the technology team report. The technology team here at our agency is the team that looks at trying to bring technology to the agency, trying to get us up to date and up to speed as far as how we use technology to help us to meet the needs of the agency and the citizens. If you look at the report that you have before you, we have 9 projects that we're currently working on here at DSS with the technology team. And if you look in the first line, there is, we prioritize each of the projects. And of those 9 projects, number 1 is NC Fast, it's down at the bottom. What we've determined in the last couple of months is that we need to make NC Fast part of our technology team. And what we're doing with NC Fast is we're trying to, on a continual basis, analyze what the needs of the NC Fast system are, and to do some troubleshooting with the staff around when they are not able to process in NC Fast, and make sure that we're providing them with the software that's needed for their computers, and also working with some of the workers individually to determine what might be happening when they cannot process certain things. And there have been certain members of our team, other members that have joined our team. Harvey White, who does the security at the Human Service Center, he's joined our team, and also Stuart Goodson, who does security for our system. Every worker at DSS has to have security clearance through the state in order for them to access the DSS systems, and that's what Harvey and Stuart do. And so they joined our team because Harvey does a lot of work with the help assisting workers with the computers at the Human Service Center. And we've also had a worker from the social work team to join our group, and also a caseworker from the other building will also, from the Human Services Center, will also join the technology team. So we're trying to put folks on the team that will keep us up to date with what is going on and what the needs are for the programs. The second project that we're working on is the CPS note card system. That's been moved to number 2. And that note card system is needed to automate our CPS logging system for our cases because of 2 fatality reviews that we went through, and this was noted as something that was needed. that we needed to automate that card system in order to connect families together in the system. Number 3 is We Serve. I'm not going to go over all of them, but just the top ones that we're working on. We Serve is our program to track client issues, what complaints or issues come into the system. We have been tracking and logging in to this system for a couple of months now. There have been glitches in the system, and one of the glitches is that the feature that tabulates all of the raw data that we have in the system, because we're tracking phone calls in terms of whether the client received their benefits, whether the benefits were correct, and other issues like that that we have identified that are the most significant that clients are calling in about. The feature that is not working right now, where we can tabulate everything, MIS is aware of it, but it's not completed yet, and so we do not have a report today of that raw data for you. But we can have the report for you at the next time. The person who would fix this feature for us, he's out at this time, and we cannot pull the raw data down. But we do have data in the system, and a report will be provided to the board when we can access that data. Are there any questions about any of the other projects that we are working on? Those are the top 3 projects that I know the board would have a concern about.
Yeah, I guess as I talked, I'll kind of go with the one that I'm focusing on the most, and then there's a couple other things. With the card system for CPS, we're at 10% completion to automate that system?
Yes, because remember at the last report that I made to the board,
I knew you were getting a.
We were looking at
in.
2 other companies in terms of scanning for us, Northwoods and Advanced Imaging Systems. So we had kind of put that on hold for a little while. But we are still waiting for Northwoods to give us a written report. But we decided to go on and start looking at automating that CPS card system anyway.
Because my concern is that with those 2 fatalities that we've had, and it may or may not be related to the card system, it makes it very cumbersome for someone to find out if there's been a prior report or if there's an issue like that, and that's a major concern of mine, that we have the data and we're in a very antiquated way to manage that data. Now, with going to NC Fast, I guess I have 2 concerns about that. I'm getting notifications, I guess a minimum of 2 a day, that there are problems with that system.
Right.
And they're doing this is a fix, this is just to tell you. And then when I get like a pink one, I know there's really something going on, something happened, and then I'll get one that is fixed, and then I'll get a series of dots. And I'm concerned about, one, how is that affecting what we're doing and our getting the data in, because I'm concerned about us being behind a little bit, but I'm concerned a lot about getting all these memos that something's going wrong with the system and it's not working, but we're working on it. Then I'll get another notice that, all that data you put in before, it's gone, so you got to do it all again.
Those notices that you're receiving are coming from the state system.
Right.
Which we have no control over when something like that happens.
Right. No, I was saying, how's that affecting you?
Oh, it's
because if it's telling you, I got something that said all the data you put in is gone, you got to re-input it.
It impacts the work that we do in trying to input the information into NC Fast, because even if they're down for 30 minutes, that's downtime when we could have been putting data.
Are you guys tracking those things?
Are we tracking when the
Well,
system
yeah,
is
because
down?
as an example, I'm looking at our speed on doing NC Fast, and I have a lot of concerns about that. And then I look at what I'm getting from the state, and I'm saying, and the state is saying these things, and they're having some impact. Then I know we're having some issues here, and I think we know the kinds of things that is going on with us so far. But I don't know what the state issues that they're having, that they're doing with computer problems, when something's wrong, when the data is kicked out, all those things is having on what we're doing, because that has to slow you up.
Yeah, it does. Yes, it does slow us up. But the state right now with NC Fast is unable to give us a lot of the reports that we need, because their system is not capable of providing us with certain reports right now. In the future, what we're being told is that in the future that they will be able to provide those reports. But at this point, they don't have everything together themselves to give us all the information we need.
When the state system is down, then the workers are prepping cases, doing other things, so that when the system come back up, they'll be able to input cases.
But if you...
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We're going to let the lady go first.
Thank you. I have, I want to share this with the board. Having gone to the last regional meeting representing this board, we had state officials there as it relates to NC Fast, and these are board representatives throughout the state of North Carolina, from Manio to what they call that place up there in Asheville somewhere, but from Manio to the hills. And you think we have hit George with the questions about NC Fast as relate to the county. It was really a debut of the kinds of problems that the state is having with NC Fast. They hired 151 people to deal with NC Fast, and then the state, I forget the man's name, said that they will be hiring 151 more because of the glitches.
300 people
Yeah, well,
to handle some of the glitches.
that was one of the comments we made, and they have not found out what the real glitches are and if there was bugs, and what they had to stop on. And I want to say this was some of that because you doctors was raising a lot of cane, and that
I'm
was
a psychology doctor, not a doctor. Don't put me in there.
That wasn't that wasn't the word that he uses, cane, and but there was quite a bit of questions as it relates to NC Fast, and we are not the only county having problems with NC Fast, and I want you to know that it was a real enlightenment to know that the state thought that they were starting up the easy end of the technology as it relates to social services programs in the state of North Carolina, and it turned out to be a massive problem, was the word used in quote. So they moved their offices from one place to what's the name of that psychiatric?
Dorothea Dix?
Yeah, they moved their office from there over to Dorothea Dix. Now I won't tell you the comment they met with that, but still they have tried to get it in a centralized spot so that they can handle their hiring.
So that whole thing was not centralized. It was in.
They trying to do some of that, just like George was trying to do some of that, but it didn't solve the problems. So they are hiring additional people to send out to the counties to help address some of the concerns and problems that they're having. we are not unique as it relates to that. I just want to say that. Now, a warning he gave us that I did not even share with you was that they don't know what's going to happen when Medicaid come up. These are life-threatening situations because you got dialysis, people with meds, and this and that and the next thing. And they said they thought NC Fast, the food and nutrition part, was going to be easy. They don't know how the Medicaid stuff is going to happen when it comes up. So all he could say was he's going to get the information out, and that the State Department has not been exactly forthright with their messaging as to where the problem lies, but there are problems in the NC Fast.
I think that
Okay.
Medicaid, as I understand it, the director of NC Fast came before the county commissioners association this past month. And they're saying that when Medicaid does turn on, George can probably say this as well as I could, but the existing legacy system will continue to function. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We're scheduled to come live on September the 18th.
For
And
new
that would be
cases.
the soft launch, and that just be for new cases, that people that have no,
So all
tied
cases
to,
are still under
uh,
legacy until.
and we'll be running the EIS system for all the old cases.
And they don't know how it's gonna
They don't know how it's gonna work.
jive,
But,
jail together, jail.
They got to have it up in operation because October the 1st, the Affordable Care Act come in place, and they got to have a way of transmission those applications. So that's why there's a focus on getting the soft launch up by October the 1st, so that they'll be in compliance within the Affordable Care Act to get those applications.
What I want to know is on the crossover training for NC Fast, they've got to do the food stamps and the Medicaid.
Right.
All right, as I'm looking at this, Pitt County, how we got all of our people, have they been trained now so that they're able to do both of these?
I'll talk about
Combination.
that when I get ready to do my report.
All
I'll
right,
go over
well, the
that.
next thing, that, to me, of course, that's very important. Because when you talk about one, you might as well talk about both of them, because they are coming where they're here now. All right, and it went on to, and I'm looking at what you have just turned in here to us. And it went on to say that all county staff registered is scheduled for the NC Fast. Have all of them in these training sessions? Have they
Yes,
completed
sir.
that? And all of them understand that and can do it?
All of them have gone through the NC Fast training for the next project that's starting, yes.
That's the combination of the two.
Yes, sir. And they went through that beginning the week of August the 5th through mid-August. Our staff was
All right,
trained.
now they can do that. And you know, like if I say, using me as an example, how many, you give me 10 of them.
Uh-huh.
How many am I supposed to do? And this is what I don't quite understand, and on the comp time, working overtime and so forth. How many of them should I do?
Okay. Now that they are doing, they're universal workers as of August the 5th.
Uh-huh.
Okay, they're supposed to be able to do Medicaid, and they're supposed to be able to do food and nutrition.
Both of them.
Both of them, right. I can give you an answer on the food and nutrition because I've asked the chief of economic services for the state what is the average across the state. The average across the state that she gave us is 8 to 10
All
a
right,
day.
8 to 10.
Yes, sir. We have been asking our staff to strive toward 12.
All right, then why are we so far behind, so to speak?
Well, I was going. Mr. Perry's going to speak to training,
All right.
but we do need to do some additional training for our staff. And what we have been working on, Mr. James, is developing a way to do that. I've made calls to other counties because I said to myself, surely Pitt County's not the only one that's got to train their staff, so let's see what other people are doing. So that's what I did. I talked to several other counties about what they're doing. And the training plan that we've come up with was introduced to the supervisors last week at their supervisors meeting. But this is what we're planning on doing, because we have to develop this ourselves. This is not something that somebody's going to give to us and tell us this is what you do. This is different from the state training that we've already been through. This is different from what they did the 1st of August to learn to navigate the system. What the workers are talking about is policy, not knowing the policy for that particular program. What we are planning on doing at DSS is we are developing an NC Fast lab. We have a DSS training room that has the laptops already in there, in the training room. What we plan on doing is staff that needs that additional training, as well as those temporary staff that we are hiring, that we need to assist us in the upcoming months. They will go into this NC Fast lab, and we will have someone either from our staff or the state staff teaching, reviewing with them the navigation of the system. There are two different things we got to deal with here. Navigation of the system. How do I get through a food and nutrition application? How do I get through a Medicaid application? As we teach navigation of the system, we will also, along with that, also be dealing with policy as we go through the navigation, so that when they get to a certain part on that application where certain policy is required, there will be a supervisor in there to teach that policy piece. So we will do it all at one time. And this plan was presented to the Medicaid and food and nutrition supervisors last week in their meeting. And my question to them was, tell me what is wrong with this plan, and tell me what you think needs to be different with this plan. And they felt like it was a plan that was workable and something that we can do. We have not started it yet. It will be addressed tomorrow, again at the supervisors meeting. But that is our plan as it stands now to deal with training of our staff around navigation of the system and around the policy regarding food and nutrition and Medicaid. And Mr. Perry was going to present this.
Okay. Mary has one question to ask you.
I had one question as it relates to the system.
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess you would be the one, because I know Mr. Perry had this thick document to do. But my question is, there's going to be downtime in any system, or when you go to the bank, they can't process because they're sitting there looking at you and the computer isn't working.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to know, has there been an evaluation, I call it a weather evaluation, when it rains, the digital TV goes out and you sit there looking for satellite. Now I'm asking here, have you evaluated the weather impact? I'm calling it weather impact for lack of a weather impact on the system, because NCFAS is a computerized operated driven system. The weather impact on the system. When the client come in and they looking for the computer is down, that sort of thing. Has there been a weather impact on how long, how much, and when, and what's happening with the weather as to what it's doing in the system?
I wouldn't know how. I wouldn't know how to begin to answer
Well,
that.
if the system ain't working, you just have a little note over here, and you make it over here that at 12:05 the system isn't working.
Yeah. Okay,
and you know that there's a heavy thunderstorm outside. This is what I'm saying.
Okay.
There's a heavy thunderstorm outside, and at 12:05 the computer's sitting there looking at you.
Okay.
and doing nothing.
We
So
have-
then you can't do anything because you're working in the computer, but at 12:30 it comes back on. Then you know a time span is to the fact that it's a severe thunderstorm outside, so you can create you another little task that they can do, or go out there and address, ask somebody in, that's what I'm talking about.
I apologize.
I mean, it sounds a little comical, but what I'm saying is
No.
just a little process so that the staff won't be idly looking at people like the people at the bank.
Yes,
I guess
apologize.
some of the computer problems, how is that being monitored?
I apologize. I
sense.
didn't
Okay.
understand your question from the beginning, Ms. Perkins.
Mhm.
But yes, there is a means of doing that. We, because of the fact that we've had to prioritize things lately, we have not gotten back to that. But we have a means of tracking. You're talking about tracking the ability to move from one screen to the other and how long that takes. We have developed a means of doing that. And we had a group of people who were tracking that for us. Mr. Patel had identified a group that was tracking the time that it took to move from one screen to the other. And that's what you're asking about. And because of the other things that we've had to prioritize lately, we've moved away from that. But we can go back to that, when we have time to move on to that, we can go back to that and address that again. But because we've had to prioritize our work lately, we did move away from that. But yes, we have a means of tracking that.
I want to say one other thing as it relates to that region meeting,
Okay.
since I brought it up. The state is coming up with workarounds. And they said with the workarounds that each county would have the option of hiring their own staff to be the top person for the workarounds or the input. There are some things in the NCFAS system that they have not developed a workaround because the computer person was having problems coming up with how to deal with it, with the program for it. So that's one thing that I learned in that meeting that I have not said. As far as that, I couldn't write everything out because I have given you a written report on that way back, but NCFAS is such a monster that that sort of thing.
As
So,
they come up with the defects, and they come up with
a workaround, yes.
And then each workaround requires additional staff time to read that information, make sure you have to follow it detail for detail. And if you leave out one of those steps, it will not
you
take
can
it.
hire their person to
We
be able to
elected-
be that person, or you can designate someone that they would increase their staff. This is the
Right.
one thing that the
Then
state
we
man
will
said that
be getting 2 office support staff. They're in the process now of doing interviewing and everything. We opted to keep our staff
I
doing
like
what
that.
they're doing and let the state bring in their office support staff to us, because we felt that with the way that our positions and everything, we needed our experienced staff doing our work, and let the state train the office support staff to come in and help us.
I like
So
that.
we'll have 2 office
Because you
support staff.
have your own staff with that knowledge that they're gonna train them.
Okay. Is that, anybody have any other things for Gwen? Okay.
I'm through with them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I really appreciate the way you're writing the report, because it gives us an idea of where we are on certain projects, as well as when you think they'll be done and which ones you're focusing on the most, which is very important, because I think there's a lot of concerns with data management, and this goes right to the heart of that. Okay. Next, we're going to go to the director's report.
Okay, if you look at in the director's report, we start off first by looking at the NCFAS implementation readiness assessment plan. This is a readiness assessment plan that we completed with Kathy Hardison around the Medicaid program, looking at what we needed to do to be ready. We identified in our readiness assessment program that the vacant positions that we had, the lack of season.
Can I ask you, this is, so
This is
someone, the state came in, and then
Right.
this is their, some of the general issues, and this is how, on the comments, how we're doing.
Right.
Okay.
This is what we did. We did this in July with Kathy Hodgson. What she did, the go live considerations is what the areas that she was looking at, and then our comments is in this section. As we went through each one of these, we wrote down what we thought was issues or areas of concern. Our main areas of concern was our vacancies, getting the vacancies filled.
What page you on, George?
I'm on page 37. Down. Oh, that's okay.
Page 37.
37.
37,
Yep.
handwritten,
Handwritten numbers, but
okay.
everything
Alright.
else.
What
If
happened
you
to the
look-
rest of it? You went from 25 to 37.
Well, I'm just going down with the
Oh, okay.
overall assessment. If you look at the black dots are the areas of major concern. And then when we look at the black dots, it's centered around a major concern for the vacancies. We have all our vacancies now frozen in the income maintenance program, so we have advertised for that. So we're in the process of getting those positions filled. But as we fill those positions, then you come up with a lack of seasoned workers, because when we bring in inexperienced staff, then you have to train the staff in the programs. We are not advertising not for each program, we're doing it for universal workers. So we're not saying that you'll be a food stamp, that you'll be a Medicaid worker. We're just advertising as an income maintenance caseworker, because we don't want you to think you're coming in doing Medicaid and you're going to end up a universal worker doing food and nutrition service, Medicaid, because as they transition into NC Fast, everything will be done through this system, so you end up taking a food and nutrition service application, Medicaid application. Gwen talked about the training that we will set up in our training lab, where we'll go through the policies. So if I'm a food and nutrition service worker and I'm taking a food and nutrition service application, the client wants to apply for Medicaid, then I need to be able to know what questions I need to ask and what additional information I need to get from that client to make sure that I'm getting everything I need to process those cases. So that's why we're in the process of setting up that training lab, so that we can go over the policies. And then we have...
I did want to say, Mr. James, if you are already a food and nutrition worker, you already know the policy. So when you,
Yeah.
so when you come into the lab, then you would be coming in learning the Medicaid piece of it. Yes, sir.
And then we're working on our backlog and food and nutrition service and our adult Medicaid. So we have set up what we call a backlog Friday, where staff are working mainly on the backlog to get current. Now, we did this, I got information from the state that September the 18th, that we would do the soft launch for Medicaid, and it would just be for new applications, people that never received Medicaid. So those will be done in NC Fast. We will be running basically 3 systems at that time. We'll have food and nutrition services in NC Fast. We'll have our old legacy system, the EIS system, still doing adult Medicaid, family and children Medicaid, and Work First. They will be done in the old EIS system. And then for all new applications that never received Medicaid, they would be in the soft launch for NC Fast. So our workers would be working basically 3 different systems.
Is October still the?
October the 1st is still, unless we heard something different. But as we speak today,
About delaying it.
well, as we speak today, I haven't heard about a delay. So we're still looking at October the 1st for Affordable Care Act. And if that's happened, then this will go in place. And then next year, between January and March, will be when they would do the hard launch and move everything into NC Fast. That's the schedule, but like Ms. Williams said, things are subject to change. But right now, that is what they're looking at. So we are in the process of getting our staff hired, trained, and we are in the process of bringing on the temp staffs to help as well. So we have finished the interviewing, waiting on the background.
I want to ask you a question, man.
Yeah.
You said something about, what you said, inexperienced hiring inexperienced
Right.
people. But you don't mean do you mean inexperienced as far as fresh coming out of college or inexperienced as it relates to
We mean,
I'm trying to
we
understand
mean
what
inexperienced that have no background in a Department of Social Service agency.
Okay, but
They could be
if
fresh out of
I'm coming
college.
from New York Department of Social Service, at least I have some idea
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
social services. I'm not the inexperienced person.
We wouldn't consider that as inexperienced, but I say the majority of people that we're hiring now have no experience in the Department of Social Service agency. So those individuals come in as a work against. So that means that they have to learn the policy, how to navigate through the system. So those are the ones that we'll be spending the
So how
majority.
do you consider those who are coming from other?
If they have 1 year experience and they come in in the position as a 2. So we're saying that they already qualified for the position. If you're not qualified for the position, then you come in as a work against.
Am I asking a policy question?
No, that's not a policy question. That is a personnel dealing with how do we go about hiring staff.
I'm curious.
But we have, when we advertise our positions, we advertise it so that we could hire people in the work against. So we wouldn't have to go back out and re-advertise the positions. So we're in the process of doing that. You saw the NC-FAST update and backlog report. Like to give you some updated information. Remaining July issuance.
Are you reading from a piece of paper that we got?
Page 45.
Thank
This
you.
page. This,
I just
I'm
want
sorry.
Let me see that.
Just page 45.
This is 45?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to put all NC-FAST
All right.
stuff together.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, remains in July issuance, we're showing 99 pending, so from 1 week, we reduced that by 100 and some application on Saturday. We're showing 958 remaining August issuance and 707. When I put that in the board packet, to send out to you.
So in other words, remaining
Remaining July issuance is 99.
99, okay.
Remaining August issuance, 958.
Mm-hmm.
And September, 774.
September 774.
So we have made great strides by us working on Saturday. The purpose of working Saturday was for staff to come in, prep the cases, get everything ready so that staff would not have to have that downtime in processing applications.
Is it an option?
No, it was mandatory,
I
so it
see
was
that
not.
last line right there.
No, it said mandatory, so it was not an option.
Now, I guess there were two things about that. We have a deadline coming up.
We have September 30th.
Yeah, how are we doing with that?
We're looking great on meeting the September 30th deadline. If you look at the figures, we're roughly at 1,831 with 12, 13, 14, 15, about 14, 15 days left. So we're looking good at meeting that deadline. That was the main reason that we made it mandatory, that we worked these 2 Saturdays so that we could get everything in place to accomplish what we set out to accomplish.
Does everybody work or certain ones?
Everybody work. We had some exceptions for funerals because you can't plan
Just
with-
normal.
Right. And that was in the income maintenance program. It was not agency-wide, so services, social workers did not have to work. It was an income maintenance program.
Mr. Perry, so over the next 15 days, you're going to administer 1,831 cases?
Right.
That'd be 122 cases per day. And how many caseworkers?
We have 11 caseworkers, and then we have 5 people that coming in from Halifax County to work on Saturdays to process cases. And they have been doing an outstanding job in getting the cases processed. And I would just like to commend our staff. They have put in a lot of long hours, and it has been difficult, but we set the target and everyone working hard to meet that target. So it has been painful, but in order to meet that target, we had to put some things in place to get it done.
Scott, would you go over that math again? because I wanted to be sure about, so you were
He
saying,
has it calculated.
1,831 total cases, like Mr. Perry
That's
said.
what
Mhm.
he said.
Mr. Perry said there's 15 working days left in the month of September.
uh-huh,
They'd have to administrate 122 cases per day. Mr. Perry, you said 11 caseworkers?
Yeah.
He said 11 caseworkers.
but we're
So it's
getting,
basically 11 cases per day, 11 times 11 is
Yeah.
121.
Yeah,
But
and we
that doesn't
have,
include the 5
we have
Plus the
5
five.
on Saturday.
coming in on Saturday.
Yeah, so that doesn't include the 5 on Saturday. And the 5 on Saturday, they're able to do over 120 cases when they come in and we have prep.
Those
So-
5 people you got coming in can do what?
They can do on the average of 120 cases. And you got to realize, we have already prepped those cases, so only thing that they're doing,
It's just simple stuff.
is keying
Just
the
keying
information
it
in.
in.
Right. So we, you know, so when we're prepping, that means that we can't key. So they're able to keep what we have prepped on that day. So we're still being productive.
So that gets all your July and August backlog?
July, August, and September.
It does all your September
Yeah.
active cases as
Right.
well?
Right.
Is that September new or September research? and
September
new?
research. And what we're doing, we are logging in the date that the client sent in their research packet. We log the date in the research packet come in, we log the date that is given to the worker, and we log the date that is completed. So we do not give all the staff everything at one point in time. The supervisors are responsible for giving out the cases and then making sure that it's done. And then we have a sheet that we keep up with the client's name and everything, so we make sure it's done.
Excuse me, how are we set with equipment and functionality? I just want to ask that because, you know,
We are, Mike is doing an assessment on the equipment at the present time with Hardy Patel. I think we were set for every 4 years that we will update the.
I saw that in one
Yeah.
of these sheets.
Yeah, the update the equipment. But Mr. Patel and Mike Taylor is looking at that. So right now, we're looking good for the equipment. We might need to make sure that with internet is 9? Internet 9, and then Chrome, that these things will work. So they do an assessment on that to make sure that everything is working.
That
But
the
at
computer is set
right,
to handle
right.
all of the data that's going into it, and that
Yeah.
is can
But-
process
yeah.
it fast enough.
Right.
Processing, I understand, is a technical thing that
Yeah.
make it speed wise.
Well, at the present time, we have not heard anything from staff that
Yeah.
the equipment is
I
running
just
slow.
want to ask that.
Because that's why we got Mr. Hardy Patel and Mike working on that to make sure that we have the necessary assessment. And then if we have staff equipment that's not working, then the supervisor go in and then they contact Hardy to see whether or not there's any issue with it. So we have enough bandwidth at the present time, that's information leaving here going to the state.
Now, did your math on your calculator come out with the fact that we would handle all these 1831s?
Yes, ma'am. Are there new cases for food stamp that would occur in September, and how do those?
The new cases will be applications. We're talking about research.
So you won't be behind between today's the 10th. So between today being the 10th and last day of the month being the 30th, all the new cases coming on?
All the research coming in. Now we have some research, so that's why we're logging the dates that the clients bring the information in, so we can make sure that it's timely.
But if a new client comes in,
That's a new client, that would be an application.
Okay. But
That would not be,
would there be any backlog or delay? in
there
new
would be
applications?
backlog on applications because they have 30 days to process the application, 7 days for expedite, and they do have a backlog in the applications. But we're focusing at the present time on getting this part done.
So what's the current backlog in new applications? Is
I
it
think-
beyond 30 days in some cases?
We probably got some beyond 30 days. Last time I looked at it, we had 838 applications.
And do you have any carryover new from July or August that are now beyond their 30? Because
Yes.
you're just reporting recertifications, and it doesn't do any good to get your research on track. If you're new guys, then that's gonna be the group that
Yeah.
goes to the
Right.
press
Yeah.
next, because I applied for services and nobody looked out for me.
Well, we're looking out for them, but what we were trying to focus on, making sure first that we got our research done as we work on backlog and applications. So we wanted to get this part done and work on the other part at the same time. But our main focus was trying to make sure that we got this done.
So in the perfect world, are you doing research in the month they come up for recertification? Or should you be doing research in the month before they come up so
We
there's
should.
no delay in benefits?
We should
or
be
gap?
done a month before they come up.
So you really, at the end of September, you really should have worked all of October
October.
as well.
In which we're working part of October, but we're making sure that all the Septembers get done, so there will be no calls in September for somebody that didn't get their benefits. And
But
then-
your October
right.
people will be behind the 8 ball.
No,
Because.
no,
you-
because what we're doing in October, everybody have a certification date that they get their benefits. So we're making sure that we work on those certification dates, that those cases do not go.
So
That they're
is
not
there a
overdue.
plan for after you get caught up through September to gain on
Right.
October, so that towards the end of October, you're actually working
Yes,
mid-November?
yes.
Because I don't think you can then just go back to
No, we're
normal
not planning-
pacing.
no.
You gotta stay aggressive to sort of get ahead of the curve, so that then
Yes.
you've built that 2 or 3 week.
Yeah, that's why we're working August and September at the present time, so that September would not be backlogged. So by us working August, September, in the month of September, when we finish September, there will be no backlog for September. There'll be no backlog for August. We'll be in October for October. And we'll be working on the certification dates, which we already done some of, that we're logging them in as they come in. So what we want to make sure that when a research come in, that we log the date that we receive it.
Do you have a complicated case team? You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
what we do.
Everything ain't gonna fall in.
What we do for the complicated state cases, we have the state workers that here, that we basically use Merle to work those complicated cases. Because we do have some cases that, for whatever reason, it would not take. So we
They're the
have,
ones who's calling to the state.
Yeah.
That's the one that.
yes,
I hear.
Merle called
Yeah.
to the state, and then we have some tickets that we have to the state because the case is not working. And
Didn't get in.
then we send a ticket up to the state. They work it, and then they'll let us know when it's been resolved and what we need to
There
do.
are some of that,
Yes.
y'all.
Yeah.
One of the things that, I'll get to you, I was gonna ask them. One of the things that you brought up is that in terms of, for some of the research, that they should have been done like a couple of months or a couple of weeks earlier. Now, was that being done before the NC Fast, where you
Yes.
were doing that, and with the NC Fast is where you lost that
Lost.
3 or 4 week, 3 or 4 week
Everybody lost
window.
a window.
So you lost. So that's why we got those now.
And that's why we're trying
So-
to get current, so we'll be working a month.
So then afterwards, we'll be able to go back to where we're working a month ahead. Is that what you were saying? That we
That's
needed
not-
to be.
That's the perfect
That's what
word.
we ought to be doing,
Yeah.
is our plan to get back to
Yeah,
that.
that's the
To get-
perfect
Not
to-
word.
just be happy that we're
Right.
October.
No,
Yeah,
no,
to
no.
get back to that. Yeah, that'll be
That's our
important.
perfect word, that we moving
Yeah.
to get where we need to go. And we're scheduled to meet with the commissioners on October the 7th to give them an update. I have talked to Wayne Black. He is the director over Health and Human Services. So he is scheduled to come to that meeting.
On the
He
7th of
was-
October.
He was the one in
Yeah.
our meeting. That
Yeah,
was
I'll-
Jesus.
Would,
So I'm-
I guess one of the things, would we be able to get,
Yeah.
maybe next Monday, would we be able to get Monday reports on where we are?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do it. We normally send it to Dean Simpson on, is it Monday or Wednesday?
We changed it to Monday.
Okay, on Monday we send to you.
Can we get copies of that
Yeah.
and include Scott in
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Board members, okay.
yeah.
And that's the thing you,
Scott got a
okay,
question.
Scott, you had a question as well?
Real quick question, the workers who are working Saturday, when will they be able to flex that time off? Anytime in the near future?
And it,
And if not, I kind
Yeah.
of may regret this next question, but if not, what's the possibility of paying them as a morale booster for working those Saturdays? I mean, it'll be about 50-50 federal state dollars, 50-50 state, county dollars. Have you looked to see what that would
That would be
cost?
fantastic if we can do that. That would
I mean,
be
I
a
think the
morale
staff
booster.
needs
Some boosting.
some morale, a shot of morale of some
So we're kind of sending out a shout out to the people that control the money and that might be able to boost that.
He didn't talk real loud.
Okay,
We kind of
I
get.
know they're
Okay.
They're hearing that, right, Eugene?
I will look into
Right,
that,
Eugene?
Scott, and get with you on that.
You,
see how-
you're hearing, and
how
I
many we
think
look
that
at.
I think that might be good because just from what I've been hearing, I know there's been a
Right.
lot of stress there, and that might be
And-
something reasonable.
Some folks have expressed concern about having to hire daycare.
Yeah, and not being able to take, we earning comp time, but you can't take off.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if
That's
we
why
could
I
work
still-
that out, that would be nice.
Would
That-
this be appropriate? Could you and Scott work on that? Would that be reasonable
Yeah.
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 to do?
Yeah.
You two guys
Yeah.
talk about that and
Yeah.
let me know how
Okay.
that's going.
Okay, we can do that.
All right.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Mr. James, you got a question?
It's getting on his time limit.
Okay.
His babysitter job.
Okay, and on the, moving on to the Alexander versus Flaherty report, that is on page 39. You know, we're a state supervised county administered program, and each year the state look at how well we are administering their program. Alexander versus Flaherty has been around since 1974. And it has been in different formats as to what the state requirements are. They're looking at denied cases, approved cases, inquiries, withdrawing cases, whether or not we have excluded time inappropriately. If you look through this report, we do not have a corrective action plan and that we have to do anything. The majority of, we met everything that we were set out to do. We had 100%, and that was improper time that we had to go back and look at. But we did not have to do anything. If you look at inquiries, you know, when a client come into the agency, they have a right to apply for the programs. And then if they choose not to apply, we have to be able to document why they chose not to apply. And then they look at those inquiries to make sure that we did not discourage someone from applying for benefits. If they withdraw their applications, then they look at that documentation to see whether or not we encourage someone to withdraw their application. So those are things that you don't do. So they want to make sure that if you're entitled to the benefits, that you get the benefits that you are entitled to. Once again, I would like to say that our income maintenance staff has done a great job in following the policies and procedures in place to ensure that, number one, that the clients got the benefits that they were entitled to, and that we follow all the procedures, that we did not have any compliance issues that we had to deal with. We had 2 cases that we had to go back and open up, but that was on processing errors, I think.
Are we gonna have any repercussions?
No. No. So we did not have to do a corrective action plan. That was fantastic. That even with everything going on, that staff is still aware of the policy procedures and how to make sure that clients get the benefits, and we follow the time frames that we need to follow in ensuring that they get the benefits. If you look at the telephone report, what we did on page 44, we put last year, 2012 and 2013 on the report, so that, well, you know, some of you want to look at the comparison from one year to the next year. So this way you got all the information up there, and each month we would just update the new information. You can see that with switchboard, we're still having a lot of calls coming in through the switchboard. That's basically because of NC Fast Food and Nutritional Service. We started our crisis intervention program, started back, so those are calls coming in. Hopefully, we will begin to see a drop as we'll just look at it. But, you know, we're seeing roughly 8 or some thousand more calls coming in a month, but they are spread over different programs. So that's a lot of calls, you know, for 3 switchboard operators who take. but then you got staff as well. So that just let you know that food and nutrition service, they dropped a little bit. And as we continue to get their clients their benefits on time, we will continue to see a drop. So that's why we're shooting for, to make sure the clients get their benefits timely. Then you're moving on to status of agency personnel. That's on page 46, I think.
It is.
Okay, on page 46, you can see that what the majority of those are being screened in the income maintenance program. We got one that we're working on the background. The background checks are out for the temps for NC Fast, and then child support agent background advertising, and then Margaret has 2 on background. So we're making progress. I'd like to thank the county manager for unfreezing those positions so that we can move forward.
There's no positions frozen that are.
Absolutely.
Everything's wide.
Okay, thank you.
That's just wonderful. 'Cause
Okay, and we're moving forward as fast as we can to get those positions advertised and filled. And
I'd like to ask you a question.
yeah,
The resignations, you know, that sends up an antenna. Do you sort of get some ideas to why?
I'm trying to think. I have to go back in.
I'm just simply saying, do you do something like that?
Some of those, well, you got
Exit.
retirements, then
What's
it's
that?
some new people that maybe figured out that they weren't quite cut out for it. You know,
That's
which is
what-
a good
Yeah.
thing.
This is what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Exit interviews.
Yeah,
we
that's
do-
what I'm
we-
talking
I
about.
do exit interviews. Miss Florida Hardy does an exit conference as well with clients not clients, with employees
Yeah.
leaving the agency.
That's
we
what
do
I'm
an
talking
exit.
about. That's
exit
good.
and people got to realize that as social services change, you got to decide whether or not this is the place that you want to work, because we're moving more and more away from personal client contact to being able to key information
Using your
in.
eyes and fingers.
Yeah, so
Head at the same time.
now I passed out one piece of information that was notification of October 23rd, 2013 and November 2013 Food and Nutrition Services Mass Change Notice. The state will not be sending this out to individual clients. We would do notices in our building. We will work with Kiara in getting this information out. What will happen in October, this sheet right here. This sheet right.
Yeah.
In October, as a result of the cost of living adjustment, food and nutrition services benefits will go up. Then you turn around in November, as a result of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act sunsetting, the benefits will then decrease again. So we're gonna have 1 month where the client will get more benefits. The next month they will decrease. So what we're trying to do to get the information out to the clients, that is nothing that we have done, is a result of the sunset law, and there's no way that you can appeal it. Otherwise, you will have phone calls will be coming up, but if we can work through Kiara, get it out to everyone, put it on our website, and make them aware that this is nothing that we can change. This is federal law, and that your benefits will decrease as a result of the sunset of American Recovery Act.
I guess if we translate that into phone calls are gonna go up when the
Right.
benefits go down.
Right.
Okay.
And everybody would want to know why I got this amount in October and why my benefits lower in November. So we're expecting more calls as a result of that.
Okay.
But we will work with Kiara and other people to get the information out to the public, post it in our building so they'll be aware of it.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I'd like to have a motion to go into a closed session.
is made.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Susan.
Susan?
North Carolina General Statute.
Yeah.
Stop six.
Go ahead.
143-318.11 regarding closed sessions. Section A, permitted purposes. It is the policy of this state that closed sessions shall be held only when required to permit a public body to act in the public interest as permitted in this section. A public body may hold a closed session and exclude the public only when a closed session is required. Also, item number 1, to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pursuant to the law of this state or of the United States are not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes.
And it is also my understanding that the board wishes to discuss under subsection 6, qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment or employment of a public officer or employee.
Yes.
Okay. Do we need another motion?
No,
No.
we've already done
Okay,
it.
all right.
Did you carry the motion?
Did you vote?
She just did a
Yes.
clarification, that's all.
Yes.